Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christi Lukasiak. We're gonna pause, we're gonna take a moment and stop with the Dance Mom videos because it is the month of October. And in the month of October, we all like to talk about ooky spooky things. Look at my spooky nails. Aren't they very witchy? They're very witchy. So I thought this week's video, I should share with you two of the scariest things that have ever happened to me. And I'm not talking about dance moms. Actually, that could potentially be the scariest thing that ever happened to me. However, I'm talking like scare the shit out of you, like happened to me, scary movie type thing, if I shall say so. I don't know, it's been a week, you guys. It's been a week. It's been a very tough week. Okay, so anyway, we are going to talk about two of the scariest things to ever happen to me. And they both happened around the same time. First happened the summer after I graduated from high school. So that would have been the summer of 1995. I'm old. And I was getting ready to go to college. So I went to college about 2 hours north of Pittsburgh. I went to a school called Gannon University. It's in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I had to go up to Gannon or to Erie for a couple of things. I was doing financial aid things. I just needed to do some things. Now, I was at a point of my life where my parents weren't really involved. My grandparents who I was living with were older, so they couldn't like drive me up there. I really had to do a lot on my own. And I didn't have the money for a hotel. Furthermore, I don't think I could have even rented a hotel at that point because a lot of hotels you have to be, at that time, you had to be like 21 to rent. So I didn't have anywhere to stay. So my second cousin had a home about 30 minutes away from where I needed to be. And she was like, look, just stay there, you know, you don't have to pay for anything, just stay there and you can drive to campus when you need to go, get everything situated and come home when you're ready. I'm like, great. So she gives me the directions. This is far before MapQuest or Waze. MapQuest and Waze, dear God. I think I had like a map and a printout. So I'm driving and she's like, oh yeah, it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's on a farm. And I'm like, ugh, I don't like farm things. Not because I don't like dirt, that too, but I just don't like being in the middle of nowhere. It's very Scream-esque, right? So I'm driving through this big field, like this big cornfield on this road, and like I see this little teeny house up ahead and I'm like, oh shit, I hope that's not it. It was it. So I pull into this house, it's this little ranch, and I'm like, okay, if I go in and just close the door and lock it, it'll be fine. Now, the other thing I have to say is like across a tiny road was this old big farmhouse. And she had said to me, she said, my in-laws sometimes go there. They're like in their 80s. Don't worry about them. They're not gonna be around. She's like, you'll be by yourself, you'll be fine. And I'm like, okay. So I'm in this house and it's, I think the second night I'm there and it's dusk. I'm taking a shower because I'm getting ready to do, I don't even know what I was getting ready to do, probably just go to bed. But it's getting like, it's dusky, it's evening. And I'm in the shower. And you know how sometimes you're taking a shower and you're like kind of looking outside of the shower curtain because you're not quite sure what's happening in the bathroom. Even though you have the door locked, you're still paranoid, right? So I have the shower curtain open just a little and I am just keeping an eye on the doorknob. I'm like, okay, let me keep an eye on the doorknob. And I keep thinking to myself, what am I gonna do if that doorknob moves? And all of a sudden, the doorknob moved. It started to turn ever so slowly. And I was in the shower and I literally threw myself out of the shower onto the door and I was like trying to wedge myself up against the door. Now the door was locked, so I don't know how the doorknob was turning. But then I heard like it was one of those old doors. I could hear like the key in the lock and I'm like, holy God, I'm about to be murdered in a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. Like this is literally like every horror movie. And I'm like, stop, who is it? You know, I'm like losing my mind. And then I hear a deep voice and he's like, who's here? Who's here? Like screaming back. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm like trying to explain who I am. And it finally turned out like through the screaming back and forth, it was actually my cousin's father-in-law who was like this old big farmer, like in his 80s. He had driven by, he saw the car, he was checking on the house. She'd ever mentioned that I was there. He didn't know I was there. So instead of like knocking, he was coming in the bathroom, I don't know, I guess to kill me. He did not kill me, but he probably took about 30 years off my life. So that was my first scary story. The farmer in the bathroom, not my favorite. My second scary story, this happened the summer before my senior year in college. Again, I was in Erie and I lived in my sorority house. And this is not like one of those old sorority houses where there's hundreds of girls that live there and it's like a dorm. This was a house. And I think there were 8 or 10 of us who lived in this house that year. However, I was the only girl to live there that summer. For whatever reason, everyone else was either away on internships or they lived back home with their families. I don't know. I was there by myself that summer, and it was an old big house. And I was a server or a waitress or whatever you want to call it, and I used to work really late. And this is back when like cell phones were about this big and they weighed 900 pounds, because I think it was 1998. And I was on the phone with Mark because we were dating, and I would talk to him on my cell phone. I was literally like, okay, stay with me on my cell phone until I get in the house, just to make sure if somebody jumps out, you can call the police, right? Because I thought that was safe. So I pulled into the driveway and I go into the house, I unlock the door, and I literally how I would go in is I would go in and I would turn on every single light like in my path and then turn the lights off as I went, because my room was upstairs on the 3rd floor in the attic. And there was one other room across the hall in the attic from me. And 2 girls were living in that room that fall, and I had my own room in the attic. So I go all the way up the stairs, and to get to the attic, you had to like go through another girl's bedroom almost, and up these like weird back stairs. So it was kind of like off to the side. So I go up to the attic, and I remember coming up to the top of the stairs. I can remember it so clearly. And I just felt a little bit weird. I don't know how to say it other than like, I just had a little bit of a weird feeling. And I go upstairs and I go in my room and I turn around immediately and I lock the door. I always locked my door in my bedroom, but I just was like, I have to hurry up and lock that. So went to bed. Didn't think anything of it. I was just like, okay, I'm tired. Maybe I'm hallucinating, whatever. Went to bed. The next morning, I woke up and I opened the door, and the door across the hall was open. Now I know for a fact that that door was closed when I went to bed. I know it was, because I had a pattern. Like I would go upstairs, I would turn on the lights, turn off the lights, I'd make sure doors were closed, locked, and the door was open. And it was daylight at this point, so I was like, I felt safe. So I was like, oh God, the door is open. So I like look in the room, and then I see in the room that the closet door is open. And I knew that closet door wasn't open. It never was, because I sometimes go in there, you know, whatever, checking, and I knew that closet door was never open. And I looked and I went in and I opened the closet door. Well, here, all of the stuff in the closet was pushed to the sides because someone had been sitting in the closet. And I know that they were sitting in the closet. My heart stopped. I ran out of the house. I like got my phone, my purse, whatever, my keys, and I left. And I didn't go back for probably a week to 10 days. I reported it, you know, to campus security. Nothing ever came of it. But I remember never feeling so scared in my life. And this is far before I ever knew about a serial killer named Ted Bundy. Now listen, I realize Ted Bundy's not active in the 90s. My God, he was executed in 89. But the fact was, if I had known that people like that existed, I would have never been able to sleep again alone in that house. I mean, could you imagine? I was scared enough. And now I think back to that all the time, and I'm like, is that why I'm like so terrified of serial killers? And we never did find out who was in the closet. Look, it could have been like a fraternity guy from another house or somebody on campus just playing a prank on me, but it doesn't matter, because I am certain that that experience definitely took about 30 years off my life. So between like the farmer in the shower, the serial killer in the closet, and dance moms, I probably should have fallen over dead about 14 years ago, but here I am alive and kicking. And so don't forget to subscribe to my channel and come back next week, because you never know what I'm gonna share here. So happy Halloween, lock your doors, and don't ever close the shower curtain completely. Have a good week, bye.